Schemes haven't always had the best rap, whether it's Pyramid, Ponzi or Snowy Hydro 2.0. But back in 2013, one scheme, the NDIS, promised to transform Australian lives for the better.
This new scheme
will give people like me
and families like ours
the support we haven't had before.
Disability Care Australia is being introduced progressively in various locations from the 1st of July.
This is Jeremy Hawkes. Now, remember him for later. Despite all of these promises, complaints about the scheme have reached record levels, with over 4,000 in the first 3 months of this year. 4,001 if you count the NDIS complaints officer complaining about the number of complaints. And it seems many are finding the NDIS impossible to access.
None of Jan Pike's achievements in the sporting world could prepare her for her transition to the NDIS last year.
You've got to fight the whole time. You get to the stage where you think, I just wish I wasn't here.
Penny and Lee are pleading with anyone who'll listen. They want to find their daughter a safe place, close to home, where she'll be looked after.
We're just getting sick of jumping through hoops all the time and not getting anywhere.
If the NDIS sounds hard to navigate, you should see their offices. Yeah. Not a ramp in sight. Outrageous. Now, recently we've heard about haphazard decision-making on individual cases, ongoing computer system problems and a government-imposed staffing cap that will see 70% of jobs outsourced to contractors. And that is bad news if you're seeking specialist assistance.
I talked to some people that run the call centre out of Melbourne. She's a manager there. She's worked there for 3 years. Guess how much empathy training and disability training she's done? Not a second. And she's begging for it. Because people call up and they talk about their disability and she has to Google it to understand.
That is terrible. And if you've ever Googled a medical issue, you know there's only one way that ends. You're going to die. So the NDIS has problems, but don't worry, the government is on the case.
A new task force will target criminals trying to rort the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
These gangs or these criminal groups, if they do turn out to be groups, according to the news that I've read this morning, some of them seem to perhaps originate from the Middle East and maybe even some African countries.
That's a suggestion that's being put around by the government.
African gangs. That is a terrifying suggestion. Just how big is this suggested problem?
What's the assessed scale of risk or even fraud known to be happening on the NDIS right now?
So at this stage, the fraud known to be happening is minimal. But as you say, the risk there is quite large.
Minimal fraud? Oh, man. Just as I was looking forward to getting all worked up about gangs of able-bodied African youths hooning around in stolen wheelchairs on the taxpayer's dime. Now, maybe we should be more concerned at reports of a plan to restrict access to the scheme.
Thousands of people with autism who rely on the National Disability Insurance Scheme could be cut off from benefits if a redesign of the NDIS is successful.
You can't just go from being disabled to being not disabled overnight. It's not the best actor category at the Oscars. The NDIS was meant to include people in society, but it's become a scheme that excludes many from the help they need. In fact, remember Jeremy Hawkes, the smiling face of the NDIS ads?
This year, he applied for NDIS support himself, but despite being one of the faces of the campaign, he was rejected.
Jeremy's Parkinson's made him disabled enough to be in the ads for the NDIS, but apparently not disabled enough to get on the actual NDIS. So here's an idea. Before we worry about African gangs rorting the NDIS, maybe we should make the NDIS a scheme that's worth rorting in the first place.